Is the head coaching search, is it going sideways all of a sudden? They're the last team in the league to not have a head coaching spot filled. It seems like some of their top targets have chosen to go elsewhere or to not take head coaching opportunities whatsoever. That's the case with Ben Johnson. It looks like now you're down to, 4 finalists. You got Aaron Glenn from Detroit, Dan Quinn, who's made a Super Bowl, Anthony Weaver from the Ravens staff. Are we counting Eric Bieniemy? Is that like when I see people listed, I rarely see him in the mix, even though he's had an interview for the head coaching
technically
position.
he's in the mix just because he's interviewed, but I think he's a long shot.
And again, now they're in no real true rush because they're not competing against anybody for head coaching positions.
The only thing is, JP's point is well taken, that you are competing for the staff.
Dealing with that.
For a staff.
Right.
But these guys, would these guys all be targeting the same OCs, DCs? Yeah, maybe. But they all have their own guys.
Well, especially if you're a defensive guy who you're going to get, you're going to have to pick an offensive coordinator, a play caller. There may be competition for who is perceived to be the best play caller.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would say you really can't answer the question. We're going to answer the question, but you really can't answer the question until 2 or 3 years from now.
Right.
Because you would say, yeah, you botched it because you didn't interview Dave Canales. And Dave Canales is a star. Like if Dave Canales wins 3 Super Bowls as the head coach of Carolina, they didn't interview him.
Well,
or if Raheem Morris wins a couple Super Bowls in Atlanta and just builds a monster there, you're going to say, yeah, you whiffed. But it does seem that if I have to say yes or no, binary choice, have they botched it? I would say yes, because you're the last team to hire, and that some of these candidates took other gigs. I don't know if they offered them. I don't know if they were impressed by them. Like there's a possibility that Ben Johnson came in here and they might have said, too green, not ready, doesn't have a good enough staff.
Yeah, and
he's not going to be able to pull anybody from Detroit.
But my guess is if one of these guys knocked their socks off, they're not going to let him leave the building.
Right. But it feels like that
That's
nobody.
My guess.
It feels like nobody's knocked off. So I'm going to say yes.
I agree with JP in this way. I don't think that. I know Schefter is reporting that could take 2 weeks, and they're not in a rush.
He said it could take 1 day, could take 2 weeks.
I don't think there's any positive in just taking your time because I think you've got to get your ducks all lined up and start putting together your staff. Because what if you wanted Denard Wilson as your defensive coordinator? Whoever brought in.
I know. I mentioned that.
And
you're all competing for staff.
So he's going somewhere else. So
and
all
you
these
want
other
your
guys,
guy at the Senior Bowl. I know you have people there.
Yeah, you want guys there.
Yeah,
whatever.
but they have their own guys.
The other thing is,
I think it's more difficult.
And just
to
larger
wait.
picture. Here's why I think they botched it. I felt all along they should have targeted Harbaugh. I'm not saying Harbaugh would have come here, but they didn't even entertain the thought of Harbaugh.
Well, it seems like they excluded Harbaugh and Belichick from the mix immediately.
Right. So to me, that's a botch.
Well, look, I'm going to trust.
I think Harbaugh is going to be successful.
I'm going to trust Adam.
He's been
Peters.
successful everywhere.
I'm okay with passing on Belichick.
What?
Peters has been successful everywhere. Yeah. That's why I'm willing to trust him. That he's taking.
He hasn't been in charge though.
He looked a little soft in that interview.
But he's had more power than you think, even though he was an assistant.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in winning cultures for the last 20 years, and he's trying to build that here.
So you're going to vote if it's yes or no. Have they botched?
I'm going to vote no.
Your team,
even though the funny thing is, even though you were most into Ben Johnson,
I was the most into him,
and then
so into him.
And then for 24 hours, you fell in love with Mike McDonald.
This is where they'll botch it.
But Ben Johnson, he took his name out of the running. So I feel like I'm slightly vindicated.
Yeah, but but Ben Johnson, if they had offered him the $15 million a year, maybe he would have been won over.
Look, if I'm Josh Harris, I said on air,
you can't give a new coach $15 million.
I balk at giving you unproven guy, even though I love him, $15 million to come in and run my team.
Dabo Sweeney's not even making $15 million.
That was a way of saying I'm not leaving.
They gave Harbaugh $16 million a year. It's Harbaugh.
Well, he deserves it.
Yeah, I mean,
$16 million a year.
And by the way, Spanos never gives that much money.
He's a legendary tightwad.
But he says, F it, I want to win
So
now.
what if you would have given Ben Johnson $12.5 million a year? He might have said yes.
I would have been stunned if he turned that down.
I don't think you could give him $12.5.
Listen, I'm telling you, I'm dying on this vine. None of those guys were like, we can't afford to lose him. Because if they felt like this guy is the next genius, we can't afford to lose him, I think they would have been able to land.
Yeah, they don't let him leave the building.
You don't let them leave.
Like Dan Quinn,
So I think
he
all
got back
these
on the
guys
plane.
Yeah.
were solid. None of them particularly distinguished themselves.
That's a Dan Snyder move.
That
where you
is a
keep
Snyder move.
Where
You're
you
right.
keep him in town like
And-
that.
And they let Dan
Right.
Quinn leave because,
But he got his guy.
of course, they let Dan
He
Quinn
always
leave.
gets his guy.
There's nobody else competing for Dan Quinn.
Right.
Like
He had a
what-
bunch of interviews.
What do you care?
Yeah, didn't get
Not
any
now.
offers.
He doesn't.
Well, not now because all the
Right.
other
They're
jobs
like,
have
yeah,
filled up.
You can fly back to Dallas. Go ahead, because now all the other jobs are filling up. We'll just take our sweet time.
I think taking your sweet time put you at the back of the line. You can't
they're
wait till
that's where they
late
are.
March. I mean, you
Okay,
gotta
but you can't force
get
it.
everything
If you
set,
interview all these
get
guys,
your staff together,
they're
and start
all-
focusing on the offseason.
These guys are all 7s, and like Drab said, you're looking for 10s. You haven't found a 10 yet. Are you supposed to just settle for a 7?
Well, if we believe what's been told to us, that they haven't offered anybody,
Yeah, I believe it.
and maybe no one's just blowing them away.
Exactly. That's what I've been sitting here saying.
But you
So
still
you're
gotta hire
voting yes or
somebody.
no?
Yeah,
Did
but
they
you
botch
wait,
it?
You haven't exhausted your
Do you
search.
think they've botched it?
I have no idea.
You have to vote yes or no. I'm going to vote yes. Well, none of us have an idea because, like I said, 3 years from now, they could have the star.
My guess
or they
is-
don't have the star.
I don't know. I'm going to
You
say
can't vote.
Let me say this.
I'm going to say they didn't botch it
He's
because
very-
if
So you're
somebody-
with Kate.
I know everyone's opinion. I can't just force
I'm not
an
going to
opinion.
give up
I have
on
to have an opinion.
Adam Peters has been here for 10 minutes. I'm not going to give up on Adam Peters.
I'm willing to.
But
I'm
I
willing
find
to
it
do for
hard
the
to
bits.
believe that they interviewed, let's say, 15 guys. I find it hard to believe they didn't really like one of them. They really liked one of the 15.
Or they liked them all kind of equally.
I
They
don't
all have their
believe
pluses and minuses, but none of them knocked their socks off. If they knocked their socks off, they would have kept them. I would have said, you know what? We're gonna.
No, maybe-
What's your price? I got you.
No,
I
maybe,
agree with that.
maybe that candidate told them stuff that they didn't agree with.
Right.
They
So,
said,
they did
So
knock their
that's the
socks
point.
off.
Yeah, that's EB's point.
All these guys came in
but
and all had flaws.
I think that there's going to be one guy that they really like out of the 15.
It's only
I
8.
don't think so.
I don't know where you came up with 15.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
We've heard a
all right,
bunch of different.
Nobody
names.
likes Bieniemy. It's impossible. Take him out. The other guys, Ben Johnson's so green. He came in there. It's kind of a wussy. Note on him. Who's the other one? McDonald.
Slowick.
Super green. Slowick, still a little green.
Quinn
Quinn, loser. Who
feels
else?
like Rivera.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people were 5 or 6
Weaver.
years ago. People were saying
Weaver.
people were saying Sean McVay's not ready. Look what he did.
You're right. That doesn't mean
Okay.
they're right. It could be wrong on all these guys. I'm not
Nathaniel
saying
Hackett,
they're right.
Nathaniel Hackett
I'm not
had a
s-
similar
I'm
resume
not
to
saying-
McVay.
I'm not saying all
took
these
a
guys are
gig and
Sean
got
McVay.
fired before
I'm
his
just
first
saying
year.
You can't just dismiss a guy because he's 36
Listen,
and 37.
I saw 10 seconds of Anthony Weaver and I liked him.
You know,
Hire him.
you know nothing about Anthony Weaver.
I know nothing about Ben Johnson. I know nothing about any of them.
Right, but these guys do.
Okay,
So I-
and they didn't offer him. So that tells me they didn't love him. Sorry.
Maybe they didn't
love
officially
Trav.
offer him.
You want us to take it out.
God, you
want us to
you-
why are
take
they
it out.
calling Ben Johnson? Why are they calling Mike McDonald on his way out to
Because they're
Seattle?
best.
Because
They didn't
wanted
even
it.
know he was on the plane.
They just wanted to say, hey.
They wanted somebody.
okay, but
and somebody told them, sorry,
it's
we're
fair.
going somewhere
You're
else.
being an exhaustive search. You're saying, hey, by the way, we still haven't decided. Do you want to come back and have another interview?
I'm
And he's like,
exhausted
"Nah,
by
I'm
the
good.
search."
They're giving me $12 million a
Hey,
year.
they got
Fuck
caught.
you.
They got caught without a contingency plan. They did.
Maybe. Or all these guys are mediocre.
That's a
I- I-
possibility.
I mean, that's certainly possible.
I think no. I don't think
No,
they're
there
all
were
mediocre.
two guys, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, who they wanted. They're the most
The two
interested
guys the
in.
media wanted.
That's not true. The media is reading the tea leaves. They waited
There's
and
no
waited
teams.
and
They're
waited
not
for them to
talking.
be available.
They're only talking to Schefter.
They waited for them to be available.
They're not talking.
Some of the media, they got sources within the within the doors. They got people that tell them certain things. How do you think Keim knows that nobody offered him? They just make it up?
No, I think he knows that.
Right. He's got sources. These guys
Right.
have sources.
Sources.
I believe what Drab is saying. They definitely wanted one of those two guys, if not both.
Well, then why didn't they offer him? Answer that for me.
Maybe the agent gave him a number that they didn't agree with. I don't know. I
Or
don't
they
know
didn't
what- I
want
don't know.
6 or the Commanders didn't want to do a 6-year deal like Seattle was willing to do.
Exactly. Maybe they want to do a 4-year deal.
Okay. So, but that would argue then the counter that, and I think what you're saying is fair. The counter to that is it didn't knock your socks off then. Because if you had knocked your socks off, you give them
are they
6 years and you
interview
just
for-
eat it.
Are they
Or-
gonna interview for
Or
a
you're just a
year?
cheap owner.
Or you're a cheap owner, but you just paid $6 billion. I'm hard for me to buy.
Or flip it around. Maybe McDonald and Johnson initially did want the job or they were interested. All right. And then Harris and Peters told those guys something they didn't agree with, and they said, all right, I'm going to go elsewhere.
Or maybe
That's possible.
Maybe they just gambled.
So
and
maybe
said-
they really liked one of
maybe
those
they-
guys, but those guys
But I'd
didn't
like
like
to
what they
believe-
heard from Harris.
Yeah,
That's
didn't like
very
them back.
possible. But that's the friction. But that's why they never offered.
because they knew that they weren't going to accept it.
Because there was a conflict. They had different philosophies. Philosophies didn't match.
Because it looks even worse if you offer and then you get turned down.
I mean, are they going to offer anybody? They're just going to have interviews and not give out any offers? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
I personally think right now they're going to take a few days. This is just my guess. And they're going to contact Vrabel. And they're going to maybe contact a few other potential candidates. And I don't know if San Francisco's in play, people from their staff with Peters. But I don't think it's going to be an announcement today that they hired Quinn. If they hire one of these guys that they've interviewed, I would say it would be like if we hear something today, I'll bet on Quinn.
If they don't start interviewing more guys, they're going to announce in the next 2 days. They're not going to wait until next week if they've already interviewed all those people.
Unless they're targeting Niner staff. That's the only way that they extend it past the Super Bowl.
If they were targeting Niner staff, they would have already done it. They would have already had some Zoom interviews with them. We would have heard that, I think. Unless they're really interested in Steve Wilkes, which we haven't heard his name yet.
No. Haven't heard a breath of his name.
But if they've already interviewed 8-10 guys that's all they're going to do, what are they waiting for? There's no point in waiting.
Right.
This is from Mike Jones, who we have on the show from The Athletic now. Mm-hmm. He said, for as impressive and swift the hires they made for GM, still can't understand how poorly Josh Harris and company appear to have handled head coach hiring. Best move at this point, Mike Vrabel, head coach, Pep Hamilton, OC. But doesn't appear they've shown interest in Vrabel. They should do this, though. So he has his opinion. He believes it should be Vrabel with Pep Hamilton as the OC.
It's the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's, right?
Yes. I've heard
we
that,
all know that, okay? So you got to have the players. As Jason said, it doesn't matter. You got to have a quarterback, whatever, if you really want to go deep. I think we generally can all agree on that.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement.
If I go back in history here just in D.C., I'm not going to say that the Mike Shanahan hire was a botch. It was a good hire. Just didn't work. Shannon's a good coach. Just good hire, just didn't work.
I thought Rivera was a good hire.
Yeah,
I was wrong. Now, again,
work.
they didn't get a quarterback.
Right. Here's the other analogy I would give you. So I think coaches are important, and I know some great coaches, but it's also not I think playing quarterback's way harder than being a great coach. Finding a great quarterback way harder, needle in a haystack.
Much more difficult.
Much more difficult. There are plenty of guys out there that scheme up offense, plenty of guys that scheme up defense. There are plenty of guys out there that can make you run through a brick wall. Coaches are kind of like drummers in a band. You got your front man, you got your lead guitar guys.
Those are
They're
your
with the
1-2
band
seeds.
for 25 years.
Yep.
And they go through 19 drummers. Okay? That's what coaches are. Dime a dozen. For the most part. Every once in a while, you got your guy from Blink 182. What's the guy's name?
Travis Barker.
You got your Travis Barkers.
Yeah.
Okay? Every once in a while, you got your standout. But for the most part, they're just cogs in the machine. That's my theory at the moment. It's 7:24 on February 1st.
I think you got to have a good coach that brings good culture and hires a good staff that kind of are all on the same page.
That's what Ron was supposed to be, the culture
I think
guy.
you got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. You got to have the great players.
That is the most important.
Yeah, you do, but those coaches...
The quarterback's the most important, but
those
let's just
coaches
think
have
about...
to develop the Jimmies and the
Let's
Joes.
think about
within whatever system
Joe
they're in.
Altobelli
Of
won a World
course,
Series.
but think about the coaches that are successful year after year. It's not a coincidence that Mike Tomlin has a winning record every season.
He's extraordinary, but he's
Same
the exception.
thing with I
He's
think
the
there's
exception.
several. Harbaugh, Reed,
Sure.
Shanahan.
Handful.
You have to try and find that guy who can win
But then
year after
Belichick
year. But I
loses
agree
his
with you.
quarterback.
The Jimmies and Joes is the most important. Look what's happened to Greg Popovich, Hall of Fame coach, won 5
He
titles.
sucks.
They're one of the
You know
worst
what?
teams in
Greg
the NBA.
Popovich sucks.
Well, without Duncan and that talent around
Turns
him,
out he sucks. He's Bill Belichick. He needs great players to be successful. Mike Tomlin, he still hasn't won a Super
The
Bowl without
Spurs
him.
are going to be picking high again, so they're probably going to add another stud to Wemby.
All right, so there you go. That's my current thinking right now. All right, let's go to Mike.
I will say, in this poll, I did vote yes, they botched it. Now, we never know because they could end up hiring Eric Bieniemy, and he might end up winning a Super Bowl. Okay, you just never know. But right now,
that's nearly as funny as when you said Canales could, if he goes and wins 3 Super Bowls.
I'm just saying it's a hypothetical.
Then they missed out.
It's a
on
hypothetical.
that.
We
Right.
don't know.
He'd be lucky to make the playoffs.
All I know is
Carolina.
most
we
of these
don't know
coaches are
what's going to
fired
happen.
after 3
all
or
right?
4 years.
Well, let's say they hire
Just one
Bieniemy.
right after
Valdez is
another.
convinced that Bieniemy is going to be the guy now, right? So let's say it's Bieniemy, and that was a backup, but they draft.
Hold on. Bieniemy as the head coach?
Yes.
Or the,
That's what. Yeah, you missed it. I told him I'd give him a free fiver.
that
if that
is
happens.
so laughable.
It's not that Bieniemy is the best candidate
Yeah.
for the head coaching position. It's the best for the organization.
Why?
Be-
Anthony
because
Weaver.
they whiffed on their guy.
They didn't whiff. They didn't offer
They
anybody.
whiffed on their guy. They had their sights set on McDonald and Johnson, and
They obviously
you got
did.
caught. You got caught without a
There
contingency
is
plan.
no way that they're going to go through all of these candidates and whiff on a bunch of guys and then settle on Bieniemy.
Yes, he's
I
under
think that's
under contract,
preposterous.
and they'll regroup and get ready for the coaching vacancies next season.
Okay. You don't want to go hard on this, right? You don't want
this is
to
my-
you don't want a Bieniemy tattoo if they don't
That's
hire
the
him. Do you?
wackiest of the wackies.
I really
Will you
think
put an OGEB tattoo on your butt cheek if they don't hire him?
I'll think about it. But I really think it's a plausible thing that could happen.
It's possible.
It's a possible thing that could happen.
They interviewed him for 15 minutes,
They-
and then there's been
They
zippy buzz.
didn't
don't know
the
that.
guy they want. They're going to regroup.
They
They're
interviewed
going
everybody
to
else 100
retreat,
times. They interviewed him
regroup,
once
and get
for-
at it next
I mean,
season.
it's also
over coffee.
technically possible that I run for president at some point in my life.
I just
Okay,
think
but
it's
to
probably
answer the
not going to
question,
happen.
hypothetically, they could hire Bieniemy or Quinn or Weaver, and those guys might be successful.
Of course.
But right now, today, I would vote yes, they botched it because Harbaugh went elsewhere. That would have been my number one target. And then what was perceived to be their targets, EB's absolutely right. We don't know who was their number one choice. Ben Johnson might have come in there and been like a wet noodle and been the worst interview.
They might have
All right?
actually done this
But
objectively
it
and had no
seems
number one
right.
choice.
But it seems that their targets, Johnson, Slowick, McDonald. That's just conventional wisdom from reporters that those guys aren't coming here. So yes, they botched it.
I'm voting no that they haven't botched it, but you need to have a number one guy.
Doesn't make sense to
I'm
me.
sorry.
Why would you vote
need to have a number one
no?
guy. Here's why.
Because you were all in on
'Cause here's
Johnson.
why.
How does that make sense? That
Here's
Cakes
why. Can I
Let him
tell you
explain
why?
it. Let him
Because
explain
I
it.
have trust in Adam Peters. I feel like he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Even if some of what we thought were the best candidates are going by the wayside or signing elsewhere, I have faith that he knows what he's looking for. He has a vision, and he'll land on the right
I also
guy.
have a feeling, and this is just a pure guess. This is, by the way, all a guess. But that if Peters went to Josh Harris and company and Magic and all these other guys, and he said, "We got to get this Ben Johnson guy. He's asking for an outrageous amount, but we got to get him." I don't think on his first ask that Harris is going to say, "Yeah, we can't do it." Mm-hmm. I just don't see it. And his first ask on the job, he's going to not give the GM the guy that he wants. I don't believe it.
All right, look,
I don't believe it.
Can we do this? Can we touch the people?
Yeah.
We all have our opinions. Let's touch the people, find out what they're thinking.
The last thing I would just want to point out, everybody praised the committee with Bob Myers and Spielman.
Yep.
Maybe there are too many chefs in the kitchen now. You know what I mean? Like, if you had one guy interviewing, you'd probably be like, I really like that guy. Boom.
That's where Peters has to ascend above the rest of the crowd and the voices, and that's when he has to be the leader.
You know how the Nats
And make the choice.
You know how the Nats pay their managers like $20 an hour,
Right.
right? Because they disrespect them. They don't think they're that important. They don't think they're that important.
It doesn't mean they can't do a good job.
Doesn't mean that there aren't great managers or great coaches. They disrespect
They're
them.
not in the business of paying
yeah,
managers
The
top dollar.
They'd rather pay
coaches
the-
are drummers.
They'd rather pay the Jimmies and Joes.
Anybody can keep the beat.
No, because there are better drummers
But
than
someone
others.
has to write the silly hits.
There are better drummers than others. That's why bands go through drummers all the time. Because they're not working. They're not good enough.
That's why Tommy Lee's been in Motley Crue forever. He's so,
Notoriously cheap learners, and you're on their side.
Just throwing out there.
Yeah,
I'm just telling
you're
you.
desperate. I can tell.
I'm not desperate. I have never had a horse in this race. Never. I've never been on any guy. Because they've all failed. So you're gonna have to show me that you got the special
No,
sauce.
you were bouncing around. You liked Morris, and then you liked Johnson.
Well,
and
you're
then you,
forcing me to pick somebody.
and then you like
Valdez goes
McDonald.
home and it cries if I don't have an opinion.
Who do you like now? You want Anthony Weaver now?
I liked him. He
I'm a
seemed
Weaver
silly.
guy now.
Anthony
I'm a
Weaver
Weaver
seemed
All right,
guy.
can we
silly.
touch the people?
Yes.
All right, let's go to Mike in D.C. Mike.
Good morning, guys.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
As a downtrodden Redskin fan, now I have to start looking at the GM. I'm starting to worry about, man, did we get another
I've been here a week.
Scott McCool?
So now you're giving up on him after 30 days?
Guys, not even 30 days.
Not even 30 days.
Oh,
right?
no, but listen, though. How long did it take before we found out that McClure would be great if he would just keep the bottle out of his hand? So
He sucked, too. He
That
sucked.
comes from without the bottle, all accounts were.
That's true. You don't know. All bets are off. We don't know. He was on the sauce for sure.
Okay, and so then, as far as all the other coaches making decisions, I can't explain the one going out to Seattle and all that rain and wind. The one in Detroit,
Yeah.
he's going to stay because I think the Detroit owner said, if Dan Campbell go for one more daggone time, you're going to be out here. So
Maybe. I just
for
don't think it
those
works
two,
like that.
And Slowick, I wasn't too good on Slowick anyway.
Why? Look what he did with
So,
CJ.
Yeah, what did he do?
Well, hold on. So who did you want initially? Sorry.
Yeah, but that might be more the Jimmies and Joes.
Who was your
CJ
number one,
succeeded
Mike,
elsewhere?
in D.C.? Mike, who was your number one to start?
I went along with everybody else with the Ben Johnson.
Yeah, it's my guy.
All right.
We don't
Love
know
you.
anything. We're all so ignorant.
But what
Every
if-
single one of us.
But what if Ben Johnson didn't really want to come here?
Well, that's what it sounds like. But see, that's what makes me wonder why. I guess that's what puts my conspiracy theory there.
Well, if you read the
They're
article,
bereft of talent.
He wants a sure thing at quarterback. He doesn't want, and I don't blame him. He doesn't want to
guys,
swing on a rookie. It's the hardest job in the world.
You got $90 million. You've got 5 draft picks. You know you're going to get a big, beautiful dome sooner or later.
Dome?
You'll be the big.
That's
I'm
what
hoping
he does.
so.
He's 7 years
that
away.
coach is going to be dead
Are you
when they
kidding?
get to the new stadium. We're all going to
Won't
be
be
dead.
that long.
Nobody listening is going to be stepping foot in that stadium. We're all going to be dead.
Man, they
I'll
put
bet
buildings
against
up
that.
in no time nowadays. They put buildings up in no time,
Yeah,
man.
but there's a lease. They're years away. They don't even have a location.
Minimum
All right, God bless
5
you, Mike.
years till the new
Thanks,
stadium
Mike.
is erected and
All right,
ready
let's
to
go
go.
to Chico in Baltimore. Chico, what's up?
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chico.
Good morning, Chico.
I'm seeing you guys on Monumental on TV. Hey, yes, it's botched 100%. Eric Bieniemy should have been a coach a long time ago.
Why?
He should be because.
Why?
Look at this lawsuit with Flores. Look, this whole minority thing. They're strict about that, aren't they?
What do you mean?
Yeah, but the question I think Eric is trying to ask: do you believe that Bieniemy's deserving of the head coaching job based on his resume?
Did in New England.
Okay.
Like that, and Belichick's done to me. He's done.
I didn't want anything to do with the greatest coach of all time, but I actually didn't want anything to do with him.
I kind of would like Belichick.
Yeah.
No,
I was for Harbaugh and Belichick. I'm going to take the best two
But you
guys
don't
on
like
the board.
Vrabel.
I was
actually
Vrabel.
like Vrabel.
Because
I was
Vrabel feels like Rivera.
No, he's
I'm not
much-
convinced that he's
Let
that
me tell
good.
you something.
He's so
light
much
years
better.
ahead of him.
You just don't follow it. He's,
What do you mean I don't follow it?
You know how
you
much
just
better
look at
he
the
was
you just
in
look at the
game
overall
management?
record.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You
No,
look at the
but
overall record.
How many times he freaking was out coaching Belichick in
So you're
games?
telling me Rivera, Dan Quinn, and Vrabel are all the same guy? That's what you're telling me. Just because their
They
records
feel
are
very
similar.
similar until proven otherwise.
You don't
yes.
think Vrabel has a better reputation than Rivera?
Dude, when Rivera came here, he had a pretty good reputation.
Yeah, but he didn't have.
Okay, but he turned out to be a disaster.
He
I
had
mean,
a record
people
of
weren't
based
talking
on
about
1
him
year.
being checked out. They were pointing to the stupid video of him yelling at his team at halftime.
Right. He was
And then
a-
I pointed out they got blown out in the second half of that game. Everybody got all fired up for that stupid video.
I mean, every time we have an NFL guest on, they say, yeah, Vrabel's a great coach. But he's just Ron Rivera now.
Well, I watched it. I watched him outcoach Belichick. I watched him
think
outcoach these guys in the fourth
I
quarter
think
of
he's
games.
I think he's a better coach than you think.
Let's go to Mark.
He'd
in
be my
Frederick.
choice.
Mark, what's up?
Hey, hi guys. Good morning. Hey, I'm not going to waste any of your time. This has been botched big time. And now that the music has stopped and all the chairs are filled, EB has decided he didn't want any of the chairs anyway.
I've never lobbied for a guy. The ones I
and now we're going to end up with here's a nice scenario for you. We're going to end up with Eric Bieniemy.
No, we're not.
It's going to be Jim Zorn all over.
No, we're not. They're not going to hire Bieniemy.
That would be the biggest punt of all time.
They're not
if
going to
they hired
hire him.
Bieniemy as the
They
head
want
coach.
nothing to do with him. Trust me.
Huh.
They
Well,
want
you're gonna end
nothing
up-
to do with him.
Well, Jim Zorn's still available. Maybe we can get him.
So
All right, you're positive,
he's,
Pete.
He's giving up. He's giving up.
Yeah, he's He's resigned.
All right, let's go to Chris
Never
in
improving.
Brandywine. Chris, what's up?
Hey, guys. I think we got to take a step back. We got the guy that we wanted, which is Adam Peters. Let the man do his job.
Let the man cook.
My thoughts, I mean, if we all got Anthony Weaver and then he gets Kingsbury as his AOC, everybody's going to be psyched again. So
You're right. You're 100% right. Watch. Hey, Drabby. Where's the video that I watched 10 seconds of and I fell in love with Weaver? What is that video? Tell people to watch it. What is it?
Well, we'll grab the audio.
We're
He's
just talking about
about
his
the line,
vision
his
and
line
alignment.
vision.
Yeah.
Guys,
We'll
a
retweet it.
genius. He's so mature. He's so poised. I'm all in on Weaver. Now I'm lobbying for Weaver.
We as a fan base, we like to follow the media darlings, and
Yeah.
they didn't do nothing for us. We always hire them, and then they went to poo poo, and we still look like losers. So
What do you?
let's
Hey,
try something
Chris.
different.
What do you think about my drummer analogy? I'm kind of proud of it.
I like it.
Thank
I like
you.
it.
Yeah, thank you. Coaches are like drummers. The quarterbacks are the lead singers. Quarterbacks are the ones you gotta have. You gotta have a songwriter. You gotta have a quarterback.
I think the coach is the songwriter.
You can't have a bad drummer.
Coach is the drummer. He's just keeping the beat.
I think you're disrespecting coaching. You act like it's that easy.
There's a few extraordinary coaches. Most of them
Extraordinary, of course.
Yeah, most of them are just.
And none of them are
There are
left
a lot
on
of
the
good
Commanders
coaches.
list.
There are a lot of
Yeah,
good
but a lot
coaches.
of terrible ones. Who did we have on yesterday? It said he was. Oh, it's Doc. Doc was talking about you'd be shocked at how terrible a lot of these coaches are. Remember he
Yeah,
said that?
sure.
On the show yesterday.
I mean, he's had experience with it. He's
Do you-
played for a
do you
lot
have
of
Anthony
coaches.
Weaver audio. Listen to this guy. This is my guy now, I think.
There's always been some alignment issues in some of these other organizations, and that's why they have the ups and downs and fluctuations through time. Because in a lot of ways, you have too many like chefs in the kitchen that all have different ideas. When you get to Baltimore, because essentially the hierarchy, right, and has been there for a very long time, they have a very shared vision and shared belief system, right? They know exactly what they're looking for in players. They know exactly the type of coach that they want to identify and bring in to help develop those guys.
I've heard enough.
And then they
This
know
guy's so
exactly how
poised.
to acquire them
Well thought.
without essentially putting you in cap.
Notre
purgatory.
Dame guy.
And once you see that alignment, that is what I realized. Like, oh, okay, like this is how you do it.
This is a very well thought out, bright mind.
He's just a drummer.
He's
just a drummer.
Yeah, but he might be the better drummer than the others.
He probably killed in the interviews. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
I
going to
agree.
give succinct,
I'm not saying he's the guy.
intelligent answers.
He'll be plenty good enough. He'll keep the beat plenty good enough.
We'll see.
He's not going to necessarily write all the hits, but he
Yeah,
keep
but
the beat.
I want a silly drum solo too. Can he shine in the drum solo? The 3 or
I
4
don't know.
minutes where the spotlight
In a
is
fourth
on him.
I would love it for Eric to do a drummer quiz.
I couldn't do it.
Jason, do you like
Because most of
Vrabel
them are
over
interchangeable.
Quinn?
Probably.
What'd you say?
Slightly.
I'm just
But I
wondering
don't
if he
know. I
likes
just like
Vrabel over Quinn.
I
He
like
seems
both
to
of them.
be
I like both
all
of them.
in on
I like
Vrabel.
Vrabel over Quinn.
I don't mind Vrabel. I'm just telling you, it feels like
Something for
Rivera.
none of them.
I like them because they've been successful at that level.
I like
as head
Weaver.
coaches.
I think they're going to settle on Quinn. I think they're going to land on
Why?
Dan Quinn.
Haven't we heard that they really like? Again, all the reporting has been fairly inaccurate, but haven't we heard that they really like the Ravens organization
Yes.
and
That Harris
Yeah.
wanted
There's your
to
guy.
model. He wants
There's
to
your
model
guy.
the Commanders after
Weaver-
the Ravens and the Patriots
he's
during
a little,
their runs.
He's a little older. Did you also? So what I love about that, see how poised he is, how smart he is, smarter than everybody in this room. Weaver, I can already tell. Okay. Didn't you also have a video of him? I haven't seen it. Where you said where he's the rah-rah guy too on the sideline, leader. Right.
I think he's very plugged in with the guys. He's very emotional on the sideline.
You were all in on Weaver, and then you're trying to go back to Bieniemy.
I'm not. Hold on. I'm in on Weaver.
Okay, no. You just came in here and said they're going to get Bieniemy.
I think
That doesn't mean who he wants. He's just predicting it to
I
happen.
want them to get Weaver.
He's zigging.
I've said Weaver since day one. I've been the guy pounding the table for Weaver.
You have.
But
And
I
think
just
they're
think.
going to get him.
But
I think they're going to get him.
But I can't believe they
I now
don't.
think they're going to get him.
They don't realize how good Weaver is, and
No,
I think they're
they
gonna,
do know, and they realized there was not a big buzz on him. They've got their look. He's still at the end of the day just a drummer. They can win with a lot of different drummers, but they like that drummer, and they nobody else is really in on him. So they're just taking their time, exhausting the search, and then they're going to give him to him.
Can I tell you what I like about Weaver? He looks like a badass.
He does.
That's what I
With
said
the
early
aviator
on.
glasses,
He is
the
a
shaved
badass.
head.
Yeah.
No more Shanny's red face or Jim Zorn's wet hair.
He looks
this
like-
guy's gonna be an
poised.
He looks like
intimidator
he
on the
looks
sideline.
poised.
I
He look-
kind of like him.
Thank you.
Well, he,
And then are we going to say they whiffed?
Well, he might suck, but I like
He might
his
suck, of course. All these
setup.
guys
See,
are
you're
not-
just based on
but they
look,
might
which
have
is
got
why I
their
liked
guy.
Raheem Morris, by the way. So there's certain guys that just look it.
He looks.
I
Not
like
only does he
Raheem
look
Morris,
But it
smart,
doesn't mean anything in the end.
Of course.
he looks like he can give your coach a wedgie too.
Somebody's got to write the hits.
Here's one thing though. He was what, defensive coordinator for one season or just a little bit?
coordinator.
I guess with the Texans, he was
It was-
promoted to defensive coordinator and defensive line coach.
Yeah, he was a coordinator with the Texans, and then when the Texans sucked, he came back back home.
I think our fan base, myself included, have been sleeping on Anthony Weir. I watched 5 seconds of that guy, and I said, you know what? That's my guy.
I told. Well, you.
I know you
didn't
did.
listen to me.
No, I know you did. I just dismissed it, but I heard you. I heard you.